All right, today on For the Love of Sports, I have Thomas Archer III, currently plays for the Chicago White Sox organization, works for the Archer Financial Group, and played college at Hofstra and moved down to Lynn University in Boca Raton, Florida. Great decision on your part to do that, man. I give you a lot of kudos for doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I always wanted to play in Florida, but my brother, so we both went to the same high school. So he went to high school 2 years in New York, but he's like, I want to come down to Florida and go to school down there. So he wound up going down here to St. Thomas Aquinas, tore it up, and now he's at UCF and played great this year. So I'm like, you know what? If he's going to Florida, why can't I? So I decided to follow him.
Smart man. Yeah, I've been up here in the Northeast my whole life, and the winters here suck. But if there was a place that I would like to play, it would absolutely be Florida. But yeah, man. So the first question I have for everybody on the For the Love of Sports podcast is, why do you love sports so much?
I mean, I didn't have a choice growing up. My dad was always a huge baseball fan, so it was kind of by default. But I don't know. I guess having a brother, all we did was play basketball, baseball, and it's just something that kind of takes you away from everyday life and allows you to just have fun. You don't have any responsibilities, and you can just be yourself. So, it just feels natural.
I love it. And yeah, it's especially, you bring that up, and I think it's a really great point. It is really that great escape, for lack of a better term. And right now, the weirdest time in history, at least our history, we don't have any sports, and it's just crazy. Baseball's still not on. Memorial Day is coming up soon, and I'm gonna, every Memorial Day, I sit down in front of the TV, I watch the Mets in their, camo jerseys, and I enjoy it. And
Yep.
this one's gonna be a little weird, man. So it is what it is. So I know I saw your dad grew up really close to Yankee Stadium. So you guys Yankees fans?
I mean, White Sox now,
Good
but
point. Very good point.
yeah, no, but we were always Yankee fans. He lived like right across from the street from Yankee Stadium. So yeah, we've always been Yankee fans. I've gone my whole life, but now it's White Sox.
White Sox all the way, man. And I do think it is fantastic. So I'm always curious kind of how, the minor leagues is it's so weird. And, some people go to college, some people go to JUCO, some people go straight out of high school. Obviously, as we already touched upon, you went to Hofstra, you went to Lynn, you played down in Florida for a little bit. What was that process like coming out of high school, going into college, and then eventually getting drafted? I mean, what were those years like, and how, just crazy and unorganized is it all?
It's definitely a roller coaster, especially being the first one in my family. Brother wise, I kind of was like the test dummy, I would say. So
Guinea
you're
pig,
trying
yeah.
to, yeah, you're trying to find out what's the best school and which ways to go and all that stuff. So it's definitely a roller coaster. And you're kind of just learning as you go. But at the end of the day, like the hard work and all that, that's the one constant, and you can't ever waver from like the vision you have of the goal of playing professional baseball. So it was definitely a roller coaster, but at the end of the day, it's worth it in the end.
Hell yeah, man. You're still on the incline too. You haven't even made it to the top yet. So I'm excited for you to get to the top of that roller coaster. But what is the recruiting process like for baseball, especially, kind of what you went through, as you said, kind of picking the right school, knowing where to go.
Mhm.
As you said, you were kind of the test dummy. You're the guinea pig. So how like did you reach out to people? I mean, again, you're I know you guys are connected to some athletes in some way, shape, or form. Was there anyone that you were able to kind of talk to about this process and really just kind of get as much information as you could to make the best decision?
I would say it was more like going to showcases in New York. That's the way everybody thought about it, the
Hmm.
recruiting process, especially if you're up north and you want to go to school down here, like they're not going to really come to see you playing, Long Island and unless you're, throwing 95,
Yeah.
96 kind of thing. So it's definitely a lot of showcases, a lot of word of mouth and trying to just kind of like promote yourself, giving videos to coaches. So that's like the biggest way. I know my brother down here, it was more of like his coaches would tell other coaches because everybody either played pro ball down here, went to Florida State, or this and that. So they'd be like, you got to come watch this guy. And they'd come and watch him. So for me, it was more showcases. For him, it's more word of mouth from his coaches.
And then so why was Hofstra like was it because you were up in New York and you could kind of play close to home? Was that one of the biggest reasons you chose the school?
Yeah, I definitely like being close to home. My dad's always been like super involved. So if I ever needed any help with like ground balls or like you could ask my friends, all he would do is hit ground balls to me every day, like nonstop. So I felt like if I was ever struggling, I would have him,
Hmm.
with me. And I really liked the school. I know a few people that went there that I played with my whole life. And it was a great experience to play in that. It was a really good conference as well, so that was a big factor in it.
And then, yeah, you moved down to Florida to enjoy the warm weather, which again, smart, in my opinion, very smart decision on your part, man. Definitely some good people down in Boca Raton, especially. So I mean, what was it like getting drafted? Like, what is that process like? And what is it, talking to scouts and doing all that stuff? Like, tell me a little bit about that process.
It's definitely a nerve-wracking process, and it doesn't go the way you think it's going to go. I've had friends that are like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to get drafted, and they get drafted in the third round, or guys who are like, I'm going top 10 rounds, and they don't get drafted.
Hmm.
So Division two is a different story. Your chances of getting drafted they're not as good as the D1 down here, but at the end of the day, if you're a good player, they're still going to find you. But your scout day has a lot of emphasis, so that's a lot of pressure. But it's definitely a crazy experience, and you get a lot of like questionnaires and stuff. You got to fill out all these questions about your history and your medical and just like crazy questions like that. So it's a big process.
Was there any did the Yankees come calling? Did they start asking about you? And were they ever on your radar?
My junior year, I heard a little bit of talk, but at the end of the day, Division two, it's more of a senior sign kind of thing.
Hmm.
They're like, you got to hit 400 to get drafted as a junior. They'll tell you, but you don't really know.
Hmm. All right, all right. I appreciate the political answer there. It was very, very good on your part. And I guess what is, so if someone came to me and said, "Hey, Mike, you're probably going to get drafted into an MLB organization," my head would get gigantic. So
Mhm.
how have you been able to stay so even keel and really just kind of like, all right, like I just got to go out there and get my two hits today and do what I can, no errors. Like, how have you been able to keep everything kind of inside yourself without letting the emotion and the understanding of, hey, I have a shot to play in the major leagues, kind of, as I said, get your head so gigantic.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's just anybody who's played baseball knows that you're either going to be humble or you're going to be humbled. So you choose. It's just such a hard game that you'll hit a walk off and then the next day you'll go 0 for 4 and make an error to lose the game. So anybody who plays really knows better. Unless you get a guy like a Bryce Harper or Trout, and they just kind of like have that inner confidence in them, which everybody needs, but maybe Harper shows a little bit more. But at the end of the day, you kind of just have to know that baseball is baseball, and every day can change. So you can't get too up or down.
That's baseball, Susan, right? That's baseball. So no, man,
Yep.
I think it is awesome. So where what I'm assuming you have it, tattooed in your brain. What round, what pick were you, if you don't mind me asking?
Uh, I don't remember the pick, but it was the 39th round.
Very
So
cool.
it was coming down to the wire.
I think that's a head. Where was Mike Piazza? Was he? Well, I can't remember what
They
round he
don't
was.
even have the round he was drafted
Yeah,
anymore. I
right.
think they had like 60 something rounds back then. And so they don't even have that many rounds. It's like 40 now. So he
Yeah.
kind of, that whole story with his
Oh
uncle.
yeah. Yep.
So,
And then
yeah.
he made the Hall of Fame. So hey, man, I can't wait to say, hey, Tom Archer made the Hall of Fame. Shit, good for that guy. That's awesome. No, I don't mean to put that pressure on you. I'll put the pressure on myself. So, and then so with what kind of, I mean, I don't know how ingrained you are or really what you're allowed to talk about, but obviously, minor league baseball has been a huge topic of conversation. Kind of in this last year. Now with the lead up to coronavirus, this pandemic, it doesn't really look like too much is going to be happening with minor league baseball this season, unfortunately. How, like, what has it been like from a player standpoint to kind of hear like, all right, the MLB wants to reduce the number of teams, the MLB wants to just kind of throw out all these players, like how, and you don't have to comment on it to the point where we get in trouble, but how does that kind of stuff like sit with you, especially knowing so many people in the system, knowing so many people that are putting their blood, sweat, and tears into this, and now just kind of hearing like MLB wants to reduce the number of teams by a third or whatever it is.
I mean, you just got to remember that it's a business. I think guys get caught up in, saying, "Oh, like I'm entitled to this," or, you kind of lose the sense of like it's a privilege to be playing professional baseball. And there's a lot of guys who, maybe could have made the major leagues and never made it. So at the end of the day, it is what it is, and you can't complain. So you just kind of got to roll with the punches, and whatever happens, happens. But you can't live each day in fear and worry, saying what about this and what about that. You kind of just have to you know do your own thing and keep going with the process, and you can't worry about stuff you can't control.
I like that. Yeah, I mean, be grateful. Not everybody gets the chance to play minor
Hmm.
league baseball, right? So even if you're there for a cup of coffee, enjoy the hell out of it because
Yeah.
it's a pretty cool opportunity. And obviously, we've all been watching a lot of The Last Dance. We all just saw the episodes a couple weeks ago. Michael Jordan stepping on the same field you are, man. How cool is that? You and Michael Jordan, you're practically,
Hmm.
synonymous at this point.
It was so cool to watch, and I think a cool part about it was that the owner of the team was interviewed in the show, Jerry Reinsdorf,
Hmm.
and Mr. Reinsdorf said how Michael Jordan kind of put up numbers to where if he kept on going, he could have made the major leagues. So it was pretty crazy to think about, like the talent that he had to go right into Double A, and most guys are getting paid tons of money, and he was producing better than them. So I mean, it was cool to watch with the White Sox. It's always nice to see them on TV,
Hmm.
and it makes you feel proud.
That is awesome, man. Yeah, I thought it was pretty funny. When they were talking about it, they're like, yeah, he hit 200, but he had like 50 something RBI if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah, and I
he's
think
he's doing
30
something.
something stolen bases.
Yeah.
So
Let's see, man. I don't know. That was a blast. I thoroughly enjoyed that entire thing. So
mhm.
hopefully everyone else did as well. And so I guess I mean, what's minor league baseball like? Like we if anything we hear about AAA. Up here in the Northeast, I hear about the Brooklyn Cyclones because they're a Mets team. So, but like what level are you at? And I guess what is riding the bus like, and going and doing all these things. Obviously, this year is weird, but how's your experience been so far?
It's been a ton of fun. I mean, my dad, he told me, he's like, just enjoy every day. So I've kind of had that mentality of like, whatever happens, it is what it is. You work for this your whole life. So when I first got there in Arizona in rookie ball, it was like surreal. Like they gave you the big league uniform, you're on the big league backfields. You're like, wow, this is unbelievable. The locker room is awesome. And the White Sox are really like a first class organization. I would say like they care more about the person than the player, which I don't know if you get that in a lot of organizations. But everything was awesome. The food was great. And then maybe 2 or 3 weeks in, they're like, "Oh, you're going up to advanced rookie in Montana." So I got there, and I'm like, "All right." So I get there, and first bus ride's 15 hours. And keep in mind, in Arizona,
Whoa.
every bus ride's about 30 minutes because all
Yeah.
the facilities are close.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I get there, and that goes to Colorado, 15 hours. And then I was like, it kind of hit me like, damn, you're in the minor leagues. This is a grind. Like Arizona was, the closest
Yeah.
thing you get to the big leagues probably, for now. So when I got there, it was, what it was though? All the players and teammates were so welcoming. I'm like, these guys are awesome. And you kind of that's all you have is each other. So guys have like these crazy personalities, and you just have fun all day. You got to learn to have fun because maybe the facilities are not the big league spring training facilities anymore, but at the end of the day you're there to play baseball and you're having fun with guys who make it really fun.
I love it, man. Yeah, I spent some time. I lived in Arizona for about 6 months. Went to some spring training games. Went to some Arizona fall league games. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
all those stadiums are like 10 minutes apart. It was awesome.
Yep.
And yeah, now you're on a 15-hour bus ride, man. That is there and back. I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, there and
Yeah.
back.
Oof, that's
So
a nice 3 day stretch for you. So I
yeah.
mean, so what's the daily like so that's the grind aspect of it, but what's a day in the life look like? Let's call it a home game. So you get up at what time, you start working out,
Mm-hmm.
you start doing stuff, like how engaged are you with the coaches? As you said, it's just you and the other guys on the team. So how quickly do those friendships and bonds build as well?
They build really quick. I mean, you really don't have a choice. Otherwise, you might go out of your mind, especially if you're in
Yeah.
a place that's all you have is the baseball. So
Hmm.
a typical day would you probably wake up around 10, 11. You try to get the most sleep you can. You grab a quick breakfast, probably McDonald's, sausage, egg, and cheese.
There you go.
You go to the stadium. You hang around with the guys a while. You kind of BS maybe about the night before. And then it's pretty lenient. So like your lift, you can get your workout in whenever you want. As long as it's before the game usually. So you go in, the trainer is always bringing the energy. I loved our trainer, Tyler. He was awesome. And then you have your early work for the day. So they'll have it on the board. They'll say, Tom Archer working slow rollers with so and so, and then you have your early hitting. You go out to the cages, and you work with the hitting coach. We had a great hitting coach, Cameron Seitz, and his dad's actually the big league hitting coach for the Braves. So
Awesome.
it was pretty cool to have. But yeah, you do your early work on the field for defense, and then you go and you hit. and then you go out for BP, and then BP was always, it was like a full blown practice. You do like maybe base running or cuts and relays, or work on something that happened the night before. Maybe if we're turning double plays and guys are beating them out, we're going to go on the clock and they're going to time that. So they're well thought out practices, and you're always working on something. And I felt like I got so much better just playing in Montana, because our coach Tim Esme, he was super great. Like he coached at Arizona State, won a championship, so
Wow.
he was very technical, and he made sure that we were getting better. And then we would take BP. You'd go inside, you hang around for a couple hours, and that was the biggest thing. Like you're listening to music, guys are going crazy, doing whatever, making your peanut butter and jelly, your ham and cheese sandwich, and then you kind of a half hour before the game, guys are getting ready, and you can kind of feel like the game is coming. You start hearing
Hmm.
the crowd come in, and it's just a cool feeling. Guys love this stuff, and it's really cool to watch like the passion before the game. They're like, "Is my eye black on straight?"
Yeah.
So it's just a bunch of like grinders out there, and then you play the game, and the game's about 3 hours, and after that, you get your food, whatever they get you, the spread, maybe Panda Express, and then you get home around 12, 1 o'clock, and you do it all over again the next day. So
I love it. Just to recap, we got sausage, egg, and cheese in the morning. We got a peanut butter and jelly sandwich around dinner time, it sounds like, and a little Panda
yeah,
Express at night. Nothing wrong with that, man. Nothing wrong with that at all. And I just think, it's so cool, man. I mean, baseball is by far my favorite sport, and it's just so sad I don't get to watch it right now. But I'm very grateful I get to chat with people like you who you're in it, man. You're in it, and I just think it is so cool. And I'm very happy that you're so grateful, right? Like I appreciate, because you do hear a lot of those stories, as you said, people feeling, I should get paid. I should be able to, well, not really. You deserve it. You've earned it, but that doesn't mean it's going to be there for you.
yep.
Every time. And, I really appreciate how grateful you are. And, you can really feel that through the way you talk. So I do appreciate you there. And last question about that before we kind of move on to some other stuff. I mean, how cool was that first paycheck, right? Like you're getting paid to play baseball. How friggin' sweet is that?
Yeah, it kind of, it doesn't hit you until you see it. And my dad's like, you're getting paid to play baseball. And I was like, damn, when you think about it that way, you're right. Because you're on the field, you're like, it's like another day. But
Mhm.
then you get a paycheck, and you're like, this is so cool. And
That
it's
is
great not
awesome.
having any homework being in college or anything.
Yeah,
You
right.
just play baseball, and that's all you have to worry about.
There you go, man. I love it. I love it. But you do have a couple other things that you're rocking with as well. So outside of baseball, you do work with your dad and at Thomas. Let me get it right. The Archer Financial Group. There we go. Relatively well known. They do some pretty cool stuff there. What I mean, obviously your dad's been doing finance for a while. You think you sent over a motivational video he had that as well, or unless that's just in your signature. Not totally sure about that, but it got over to me. I checked it out. I mean, what is it like? Was finance always something you were interested in, or did you kind of grow accustomed to it? Obviously through dinner table conversation and just being around your dad all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been in a conversation my whole life. It's been outside of baseball, it's been my dad's passion. And so in this off season, people would be like, "Oh, you should give lessons, this and that." But I was so interested in my dad's company, and he just really, when he described all like the value that some of these tools he uses for his clients to accumulate wealth and preserve their wealth, I was like, this is unbelievable. So I really got interested in that, and I started working with him, full time in the off season, and I never really, looked back from there. But I'm really passionate about what he does.
And so your dad works with some pretty cool people, and namely a bunch of athletes. I was checking out the website a little earlier, and I think John Franco was on there, and some
Mhm.
other athletes just from obviously the New York City teams, if I'm not mistaken, and some others. How growing up, were you just kind of always around these teams? Were you always around these players, or did your dad kind of keep these two things separate a little bit?
Yeah, I was always around them. So I was kind of used to it my whole life. I mean, I'm not going to say like I wasn't like starstruck, which I was,
Yeah,
but at the end of the day, you get used to it and you realize they're just normal people, like me and you. So, you know, he he's always been, nice and introduced me to all his clients and the players. So it's been cool to be around that, and it makes you realize they're normal people too. So if they can do it, you can do it, especially with
exactly.
baseball.
Yeah, yeah, right. Like it's always so cool, like meeting some of these celebrities and these athletes that you've looked up
Hmm.
to. I've done that. I've done enough events at this point that I've met a few of them, and they're all, yeah. I mean, you just talk to them, just treat them like normal humans. What I found is don't even ask them about their sport half the time. That's kind of the last thing they want to talk about,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Talk to Bernie Williams about his guitar and his music. He'll talk to you
Mhm.
forever. Don't ask him anything about the core four or the Yankees. So it's kind of funny how that works. So with with knowing so much about finance, with knowing how athlete finances work, obviously on the top level, how often are you trying to pass along little information to your friends and your teammates and say, hey man, if you just save 10%, how many of those lessons do you try and pass along to them?
Yeah, I mean, I started mainly when I finished the season, so I was worried about baseball,
Okay.
my first professional season, and then my dad's like, listen, if you want to go out and inform some of your friends about this stuff, he's like, go ahead and you can do it under us. So I was kind of fortunate to do that, and I would tell my friends like, listen, you guys don't know like the opportunity you have right now. So like my dad would show ways to where like you can put money away. Like if I told you you can put money away at 5% compounding interest, you can't lose money, and it grows tax free and tax deferred. People are like, "What is that?" So I would tell them like, "This is what it is." And my friend's like, "Oh, I like the stocks, this and that." And I said, "That's great, you do that, but make sure you have your safe money because I've seen where this stuff can go.
Hmm.
If it comes time for you to retire and you're at this time with the coronavirus." You're like, do I sell my stocks? Do I have money for retirement? So I've kind of been telling my friends about that who were willing to listen.
Yeah, exactly. Not everyone's willing to listen, especially at 21, 22, 23 years old. They're
Hmm.
way too worried about their Panda Express and their sausage, egg, and cheese, right? But no,
Yeah.
man. I mean, I think it's cool. I worked in finance for a couple years. It's obviously very important, understanding this stuff. If you can learn it from a very young age, you can be significantly ahead of the game by the time you do make it to that retirement age, or by the time you do want to buy that house. So definitely make sure to reach out to Tom. Any baseball players, basketball, anybody that wants to reach out to Tom, go ahead and do that. I'll have all that information in the show notes. And then so I guess through working in finance, through seeing what these athletes do, through seeing what some of these other celebrities do, like how do you kind of weigh the two now, right? Like baseball obviously doesn't really look like it's going to happen this year, at least for the minor league system. We'll see. I'm crossing my fingers, but moving forward, is the goal still to play as much baseball as possible?
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you still have to make money,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, you could definitely balance it out. Like I'll work all day and then at night I'll go hit and, do my working out and whatever I need to do. So, I don't have any problem balancing it. Like going into spring training, I was able to do both. So, yeah, I really make sure I kind of balance the two and you just got to stay ready. You don't
Yeah.
want to baseball something that you can't just pick it up like that, So
Yeah. 100%, man. 100%. And so you're down in Florida. So you have your brother throwing pitches to you if you're both down there?
yeah, he so we work out. We pretty much hit and work out every day. We've been doing the same thing since we were young. My dad gave us a batting cage, so
Nice.
we've always been throwing. We have the best batting practice. Most people can't throw batting practice, but we're always throwing it
Hmm.
to each other. So yeah, he's working hard, and he's actually going to be a really good player. I think he'll get drafted high his junior year at a UCF. So
Well, I
he's
mean, he learned everything from his older brother, right?
yeah, he learned what not to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. Appreciate the honesty on that one, man. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
So one thing that I think is really interesting, comparing, baseball and finance, especially, the daily grind of baseball, the daily grind of finance, especially in the beginning with finance, especially, I mean, baseball the whole time. But, as I said, I spent a couple years in finance. It wasn't quite for me, but it was that daily grind. It's 6 or 7 days a week. It's 10 hours a day, Monday through Friday. You got to put in a couple hours a day on Saturday. You got to put in a couple
Mhm.
hours a day on Sunday. How have you seen just understanding the grind of baseball, and how have you seen that kind of translate over to what you're potentially going to do or what you're currently doing in the finance world?
I mean, the work ethic, has always been there for me, so I kind of carried that over. But then, I spend a day or two with my dad, and I'm like, it's hard to keep up with him. He's just,
Yeah.
I guess, when you're that passionate about what you do, it's hard. But it's more of I'm trying to integrate, what I've learned from my dad and from his clients, and integrate it to like my friends, and to make sure they don't make the same mistakes. Because in baseball, you watch a guy make a mistake and you make that mistake, then that's a problem. So,
Hmm.
my dad, he's actually writing a book called All the Way about how he went from the South Bronx, had nothing, and was able to, amount success through, hard work and following his passion, through finance and life insurance. So, so it's a cool book, and there's a lot of stuff that I go through it and kind of refresh myself on everything. Especially now, people ask me a lot of questions. They're like, "Hey, what do you think I should do?" One of my friends is like, "How's your stocks doing?" I'm like, "I got to be honest, I'm not into that because I'm not interested in having sleepless nights to where I see my
Hmm.
portfolio drop." So, and my dad he tells me, he's like, "I'm more concerned about the return of my money than the return on my money." So,
Hmm.
it's just stuff
Oh,
like
I
that.
like that. I like that. That's good.
Yeah, and he'll tell me like, listen, when you're putting money away, he puts a lot of savings plans in, like 4 savings plans in place for his athletes because they like to spend. They get their entourage,
Hmm.
they want the Rolls Royce and they want to buy the house for their mom and their boys. But at the end of the day, like he's had clients that they go broke at the end of their career, and the only money they have left is these plans that he's put in place for them. So
That's got to
and
be so, that's just got to be awesome to know that you're making that big of an impact in someone's life, right?
yeah, I mean, it's a great feeling to know that you secure somebody's retirement. Like one of my friends, I told him, like, listen, you got, close to $1 million for your retirement right now. And it's not even in stocks. It's in what I was telling you about with, you get 5% over time, and you can save your money for 10 years if you want and let it ride from there. And if I told you what it was, you'd be shocked. It's a whole life insurance policy. And people don't realize. They're like,
Hmm.
yeah, I don't need life insurance. I'm like, well, it's not the life insurance. It's what the life insurance can do. You're not paying tax. You're getting 5% on your money, and it's guaranteed. And they'll say, I like the stocks, but I say do both. At least you have the life insurance for your safety net, because these players, they get all this money and they put their money in the stocks, and they're paying too much for a life insurance policy that's not providing any value for them. So I say if it's good enough for these guys, it's good enough for the average person.
I would say so too. And then you hear about all the crazy things that some of these players invest their money in. I think Kurt Schilling invested $50 million into a video game company and lost all of it. So it's just having the right people in your corner, someone like yourself, someone like your dad who's been doing this for a very long time, has helped a lot of people. Those are the kind of people, again, you probably want in your corner. So whatever you're doing, Tom, continue to do it. And then so I guess, obviously baseball's one of your loves, finance is one of your loves. You're going to try and do both as long as you possibly can. I mean, what are some of the, future goals you have for each in each aspect of your life moving forward?
I'm just trying to make sure that I improve myself every day. Like my dad always told me, try not to be complacent. So I'm just trying to learn as much as I can about baseball and about his business, and just trying to be the best I can. Because I know at the end of the day, after baseball, I still want to work and go into his business, and so I just want to make sure that I keep on going on the path that's going to allow me to be successful, baseball or not.
I love it, man. This was awesome. Thank you so much. Thomas Archer III currently plays in the Chicago White Sox organization, drafted a couple rounds before Mike Piazza. So we got a shot. We got a shot, man. Works for the Archer Financial Group, played in college, Hofstra and Lynn University. Really appreciate your time today, man.
All right, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed this, and stay safe.
You too, brother.